Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good to see all of your faces, whether they are pictures or live or just your names. We're gonna wait just a couple of minutes. Sometimes it takes a minute for things to load and to come up, and then we'll get started. You can view this presentation in any mode that you like. I keep mine in speaker mode so that I can see the person who's speaking, but if you want it in grid, however you want to do, there's at the top of your screen, there should be a grid that allows you to choose the view that you want to have while we're talking. There's also a raise your hand function. So if you have questions, we are going to take questions towards the end of the presentation, well, middle-ish. Matt's probably going to talk about 20 to 30 minutes about flipped classrooms, and then we're going to open the floor to questions. So keep track of your questions. Let me know if you have them, and we'll try to get to them all. If we don't get to all of them, I promise he and I will sit afterwards and answer them and send them to you in an email, because we want to make sure that we answer all of your questions. So we are officially at 12 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm Dee Dee Vicino, and I'm moderating this fabulous gathering today. And I really appreciate you coming. I know things are a little bit wacky when it comes to education right now, with a lot of uncertainty. Our school district, just until yesterday, had planned to offer full-time online or hybrid, part-time in school and part-time online. And we just got notice yesterday that we are going back full-time online, at least until mid-October. So now teachers who weren't planning to be online are scrambling to make sure they're ready. If everyone would do me a favor and go ahead and mute your microphones, and then we'll turn them on as you have questions, that would be awesome. But I would love to take a minute right now and introduce you to Matt Johnson. Matt Johnson is, my notes just went away. Matt, where did they go? There they are. Sorry, y'all. Matt Johnson is the assistant principal at Oakland Elementary School in Boiling Springs, South Carolina. He used to be a third grade teacher and a technology coach. He is an award-winning veteran teacher and a national speaker on the flipped classroom model. So I'm really thrilled to have him here to share his wisdom and expertise as we start juggling all of this and trying to figure out the best ways to engage our students as we are teaching. I'm a former English teacher, middle school, and a former assistant principal as well, and just trying to put together as much information for teachers as I can to help them in this transition. Matt's going to talk to us about the science and research behind the flipped classroom model today. He also is going to discuss the benefits of the flipped classroom model and why it's a great model to use in your virtual and physical classroom, and how to create really effective and engaging lessons for your kids. He's going to walk you through it step by step and then talk about his personal experience with that. So with that, Matt, I am almost going to give it away to you. I do have a couple of thank yous. I want to thank Monica Perry with Riverview Gardens High School for bringing her team together and being with us today. They're out of St. Louis, Missouri. Also, hello and thank you to everyone at Camden County Schools. We've got a huge showing from Camden County, and special thanks to Leah Robolito for making sure that they got that information and are here today, and she is with us as well. We have a lot of people too from, I hope I say this correctly, Nippersink School District in Richmond, Illinois. So thank you for being present today. Barbara Smart, I don't know if you are in the room or not, but you've always been a great supporter. And also to Carolyn Garou, who is an incredible, amazing middle school science teacher at Levy High School, K-12 in Bronson, Florida. So thank you all for being here today. And Matt, I am going to join. I'm going to give this to you.
Well, Dee Dee, I just want to say thank you so much for thinking of me. I know there's a lot of flipped classroom experts out there that are actually currently flipping their classroom. It's been a long time since I've been in the classroom. The last, most recent thing I've been flipping is burgers on a grill. So, but I do have a lot of experience and doing a lot of training with flipped classrooms, and the model, you know, it's pretty much stayed the same over the years. It's been around for a pretty long time, almost 10 years now. But I am honored that you thought of me to bring me on. And even though I'm not in the classroom, I am starting my 4th year as assistant principal in South Carolina. And I love what I do. I love being in the classroom. That was one of the things that was hard leaving the classroom, because I love the kids. I love kind of being experimental and being innovative in the classroom. But I've tried to take that into the administration world, and now I'm still being able to teach teachers now, whether it's at conferences or now through online learning, because I know that's the world that we're starting to live in, is online. And so I'm honored to be here. And by no means is this seminar going to be a comprehensive of what is and how to do the flipped classroom, because I've done hour-long presentations and even many courses on the flipped classroom, where teachers are able to learn about it and to practice it and ask questions. And so this is just a very brief overview and just kind of tying into what we're all going through right now, and to see if this is something that you could use as a teacher in your school, or whatever your position is, to help you. And so this is something that, I've tried to take some notes on. So I'll be looking down at my notes, so I make sure I tell everything that I want to share, since it's been a while since I've actually presented on flipped classroom. But this is something that I did for about 4 years when I was in the classroom. Many people who, when they think about the flipped classroom, many people do it in the middle and upper grades. That's where you're going to see all your flipped classroom experts that are going to be those that teach just one subject. When I started learning about the flipped classroom, I was in 3rd grade. I taught all subjects, and I thought it was cool. And I said, how can I make this work for my kids? And so I went to something, I don't know if it's still available. I meant to check it before I got here, but there was a website called sophia.org where you can become flipped classroom certified. And so I went through that. I watched some series of videos, and you had to upload a video of you teaching a lesson. And then once you did that, you became flipped classroom certified. And so that's something that I didn't include in the notes, but I wanted to share a little bit about that. And so you may be asking, what is the flipped classroom? I know a lot of you may have different levels of understanding of the flipped classroom. You may have never even heard that term. Some of you may be already doing the flipped classroom. And so one of the ways that I've kind of pictured it and learned about it, and in addition to experimenting with it in my experience, it's a lot like if you look at a traditional classroom, a traditional lesson. If you walked in and sat through from beginning, middle to end, the beginning, you may see a teacher reviewing previous content the day before. And you may take, 5-10 minutes to review. And then the next part would be the teacher taking new content, going over vocabulary, going over what it looks like, and how to do it. And then the teacher may do a gradual release model, such as, I do it, we do it, now you do it. And then once you go through all that, and that's probably the large chunk of time within your lesson, the last part might be some type of formal assessment, or informal assessment, some type of way that you can gauge, did my kids get it? And then what happens is that teacher takes that whole group lesson and then sends kids home with some type of assignment based on that day's lesson. The flipped classroom kind of takes it backwards. It flips the idea. For me, what I did was if you look at a whole lesson, some of you teach maybe block lessons. Like for me, my math lesson, it was about an hour and a half long. What you don't want to do is to take that and flip that to the home assignment. And kind of going back to define what a flipped classroom is. A flipped classroom is taking a video of you teaching some type of instructional video, but it's very short. It's not your comprehensive lesson, and sending that home for homework, where the kids are just getting some meat to what you want them to know, almost giving them a little bit of background knowledge. And then they come to school having already gotten the vocabulary, the how to do something. And now they're putting it into practice where they have a teacher to work with them. When at home, they may have a parent that can help them. They may have a parent that can help, is there to help them, but still doesn't know how to do it. But now they're taking the lower level learning, like a lesson at home. Now they're coming to school and getting that higher level thinking, and they have the teacher, they have their peers, they're right there working with them. And so that's basically how the flipped classroom model is. It's just taking parts of your lesson at school, sending that home, but the school part is where you have the teacher, you have the expert in the classroom, you have that's there to help the students. And some of those that they just need that extra help, they need to hear it again. Or those kids that can watch a video one time and they're ready to move on. And so you can send them and give them some enrichment activities and lessons that go along with your lesson. And so,
as you go forward, They're just very quickly, because I know some of the teachers that are on the call. Most of them I don't, but a couple of them I do. And I know what's running through some people's mind right now is the question of disparity and the question of people not having the technology at home. And I know that's a real concern, and that's not what we're here to talk about today. So I just want to put out there that I understand that this is going to be a challenge for a lot of students, especially our lower economic subgroups and people living in rural areas. And I'm writing blogs and putting information out there, but just very, very quickly, Comcast has a program called Comcast Essentials that can help get laptops into the hands of students and provide very low internet service to families. There's a lot more to be said on that topic. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that now, but I just want teachers to know I hear you, I understand. There are some solutions out there, and it is an issue. So just to address it and move on from it for now.
And like I said earlier, I mean, if this were a mini course, there's a whole section I put on what if my child doesn't have a device at home or internet at home. And there's a lot of different things, because a lot of kids will have video game players or systems, and so they can take either a flash drive or a CD-ROM. It's a lot of extra work for the teacher, because you're having to do that for that particular child, but you're already doing that for them, or should be already doing that for them in the classroom anyway. So that is a whole session, but that is a valid question that teachers have. They'll say, this might work for half of my students. And I actually, when I first started doing this, I did it as an experiment, because I hadn't talked to anybody who had done it as low as third grade. Everybody was doing it sixth, seventh, and up in high school. And so I sent it home. I said, all right, this week, one day, I want you to go home, and your homework is to watch this video of me teaching. Actually, I think I shared it in that document I think you're going to share later. It's one of my first videos. It was on fractions, because third grade fractions, it's one of the most difficult things for kids to get, but I think it's even more, for me, it was very hard to teach. And so my first video kind of broke all my rules that I'm going to share, it was a long video. But I sent it home, and the next day I polled my kids. I said, how many of you watched it? It was about half of them. And so I try to figure out, how can I get the other half to watch this little short video? And so I started doing a lot of things. Now, I'll get to that a little bit later about what I did within my classroom. I did what's called flipping in my classroom, where I set up a system. It was a lot of work, but I got it to work where everybody was able to watch that little short video and be ready to transition to different ways in my classroom. And so kind of going back to the beginning of what a flipped classroom is, I didn't create it. There was actually two teachers who named John Bergman and Aaron Sams, who are the pioneers of the flipped classroom. And I actually, in the article, there was a quote by them that really made sense, is that in a traditional classroom, teachers are they're talking to the students. They're teaching to the students, and the kids are expected to catch everything that's coming their way. But within a flipped classroom model, if it's done correctly, the teacher is talking more with the students. You're having a conversation. The background knowledge has already been planted. Now we're able to take that knowledge and apply it. And so that's what we want all our students to do. We want them to be able to apply the knowledge and make it work for wherever the content is that the teacher is teaching. And so looking at kind of the question is, who can use a flipped classroom model? Really, I think anybody can use it. I know there's actually even some schools and school districts that are trying to do some flipped professional development. Actually, one of the mini courses that I taught on flipped classroom, I flipped the mini course. And so I got contacts from all the teachers in my district who wanted to learn more about this. And I said, all right, let me kind of back up. One part of it was in-person instruction, and the afterwards was them going home for a couple hours or 2 hour, 3 hour project to do outside or after the in-person lesson. And so I said, well, let me try and see if I can flip this. So I sent them all about 3 videos of what a flipped classroom is, problems within a flipped classroom, all the kind of things that that I had experienced from me. And so when they came to me, they already had all the knowledge that they needed. And so the goal for the in-person was to create their own lessons, their own flipped classroom. And so they had to pick, they had to come to the class with a topic. I gave them, my example was fractions. And I shared all my videos with them so they can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. And so the whole 3-hour in-person class was them working with partners, creating content that they could take tomorrow and use with their kids. And so that was one of the things I feel like that, and the teachers loved it because they left, and they didn't have any homework because they had already, done the homework, which was just the lower level, getting the meat of what they needed to know about a flipped classroom. And so thinking about those that can use a flipped classroom, typically the math and the science are the easiest ones that people have found to use for flipping a classroom. For me in the 3rd grade, that's the only thing I did because I had, I teach math, science, social studies, language. I teach all the subjects. And so I just wanted to focus on one that I felt like my kids would benefit from. And a lot of people that had already done it said math was one of the easiest ones to do. Science is also another one. But really any topic that you want to, if you can find videos that you feel like you can send to your kids, and thinking about, a lot of teachers like to look for videos because, like, if you're on the Zoom lesson now, some of y'all have been on Zoom, you don't like seeing yourself. Some of you got that camera turned off because you don't want to see yourself. So a lot of teachers have that those issues about hearing themselves talk. I don't know if any of y'all recognize, I'm not from up north from hearing me talk. And if you hear yourself talk, you realize, or you may say, I don't sound like that. I don't like hearing myself. But for me, I get it. I went through that. After a while, I got used to hearing myself talk. Yeah, I sound country. I sound funny, but you know what? That's how I sound to my kids anyway. So it doesn't really make any difference. So a lot of teachers, instead of creating their own videos, will go looking for things. But for me, I found I spent as much time looking for content that my kids can use. I can spend even less time creating my own because I knew what my kids needed to learn. I knew my kids. I can make my own because sometimes you'll find videos like on Khan Academy that you only need about that much of it, and so you might have to tell your kids, all right, you got to start at this time and stop at this time because that's all you want them to get for that day. And so I started doing that at first, and then I said I'm just going to create my own. But really, if you really are adamant or really want to try this, you can flip any classroom. Even if you teach, if you're a high school English teacher, if you can find something where they have something that you want to give them that background knowledge before they come into class, then when you get into class, now y'all can have it's similar to, like if you have an outside of class reading, read chapter 1, because when you come into class, you're going to be discussing chapter 1. If not, you're going to be reading chapter 1 on your own. You're going to be a little behind. Kind of along the same lines, but in this case, the flipped classroom is just getting the meat of your lesson in their hands at home. And one of the things that, and I mentioned this earlier, is a lot of teachers will teach all day, traditional classroom, and then they'll send a video home, which is almost like 40 minutes. And I don't know about you, I'm kind of ADD. 5 minutes, I'm done. And some of you have been on these Zoom lessons and you're falling asleep, and if you're not contributing, you're getting a little sleepy. And our kids are just the same way. And so one of the things I tell teachers is to keep it very brief. And some of you may say, I teach for 40 minutes. I teach for an hour. How can I condense that much into just a few minutes? And what I realized for me, and this is not something I learned in any training, this is just my own experience, I repeat myself a lot. Teachers repeat themselves a lot. Why do we repeat ourselves a lot? And a lot of times I feel like we are teaching to the middle of the pack and lower. And what do they need? They need that repetition. Some kids, they hear it one time and they're ready to move on. And so a lot of our higher level kids get a little disengaged. They get a little bored because they're like, I already heard this already. And so that's what I experienced with mine, is that, there's a lot of things that we repeat. And I feel like I'm even repeating myself in here, and I'm trying not to, for that same reason, because in a classroom, you need to repeat yourself because kids, tune out. Kids are disengaged. But then what they can do in a flipped classroom video is they can pause, rewind, watch it again if they miss something, especially if they know that at the end of that video, there's some questions they have to answer. And so that's what I love about, one of the things I love about flipped classroom is that you can add that assessment piece at the end, and the kids, if they missed it, they can always go back and watch it and get what they need from the video. And so I said, make sure you keep it short, and also try to keep it interesting, because just like, kids have a short attention span, one of the things that you can't do on a flipped classroom video is you don't know who's paying attention. Like right now, I mean, I have it on speaker mode. I don't know who's paying attention. I can't reach into that screen and get their attention. So you want to be more engaging. You want to be more exciting. You want to throw in those little quick one-liners that make kids want to keep paying attention and listening. One of the things I used to do was I would just be sitting there and I would just hold up numbers in front of me, and that would be one of the answers on one of my questions, because I want to see if their eyes were on the screen. And I may say, all right, what number was I holding up while I was talking about denominators? And so that keeps them engaged. There's just little tricks, because when I started flipping in my classroom, I started watching these kids while they were watching the video, and they're down there, fiddling with their shoelace. They're not even watching. And so I wanted to make sure that they were still engaged. And so I'd add those little bonus questions, or sometimes even little silly little tidbits to make them laugh, to make it interesting in there. So that's one of the things that I encourage about what some things that would be good for a flipped classroom. I don't know if Didi, if you're still on, I think you went away, or if you're still there. I don't know if you wanted to stop me or had any questions.
No, I'm still here. And I think it's interesting because Lisa Shapiro, I believe she's a principal that's joining us today, asked that if this was kind of a combination of asynchronous learning combined with synchronous learning. And that's exactly what it is, where they're learning asynchronous, boy, I'm tongue-tied today,
Hard to say that.
on their own, and then synchronistically when they come back as whole groups or together. So you're giving them that responsibility on their own, and then everybody's sharing that when they come together.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, and with my younger kids, it's just teaching them how to watch a video, teaching them to be independent. And I tell them, I said, this is not a Saturday morning cartoon, or what I used to watch Saturday morning cartoons that you're watching. You're watching this video to get information. You're watching this video to learn. So I had to teach them how to be a learner when they're used to being face-to-face in front of a person. And so really giving them those expectations too. When you watch this video, you got to be able to answer these questions. And sometimes even if they didn't do so well with the little, 3 or 4 question at the end of the video, I would have them watch it again, because I wanted to make sure that they got what they needed, because in my classroom, they would watch the video and then they would come meet with me. Because when they come and met with me, I didn't review the video. I went straight into application. And so they needed to know that before they came in. So it is a different style. It's something that I felt like was effective. And just like, any teacher who teaches one way one year, you're going to have different kids the next year. And so I had to continually modify things in my lessons and in my classes. I did use the same videos, but I would continually modify different things based on what my students needed. Sometimes I would re-record a video because, standards changed. I felt like I didn't do so well. Like my first video was 9 minutes long. I said, I gotta shorten that one because I repeated myself a lot. So I did use some of the same videos, but I went back and I edited those. And then now we enter a COVID world where a lot of us are teaching either face-to-face like we're talking now, or they're recording their lessons. And so my thoughts, if I were in the classroom, I think this would be a very beneficial model that teachers could follow. One of the things that an idea, nothing mandated to teachers, but just an idea, is to do a little combination of face-to-face along with some recorded videos. And really you could do a flip model where on Monday, with this particular subject, they just watch this particular video. It can be something that you share, because on Tuesday when we meet face-to-face, then we're going to discuss what you saw and applied into a project. And so I got to look at my notes though, but I think based on that, because a lot of people, their district plans, everybody's is going to be different. It's hard to say, do it this way. You just have to know how to make it work for your students and in your subject. So And again, there's not really any one model that to follow. You just have to, again, think about your kids, your subject, even think about your style of teaching. And I was just talking to a teacher the other day. We do a lot of guided math and guided reading where, we do a mini lesson and then we break up into groups because we feel like that's, more effective. But, I've seen some jam up whole group lesson teachers where they've got every kid's attention because they're just a dynamic teacher and speaker, and you just can't help but pay attention and can't help but learn. And some of them need a little extra help on the side, but it just depends on what your strengths are. And for me, I'm more of a let me just sit down for 2 or 3 people, let's have a conversation, let's talk, let's discuss it, let me see how I can help you more. And that was kind of hard within a whole group lesson. And again, I started talking about the shortness of the videos. Many videos that you share, and there's a lot of different ways to share the videos. I started by just emailing them, and sometimes that's hard to email a video because it needs to be short. Then I moved it to a YouTube channel, which I think I shared in that document I put on there for parents to link, but a lot of times they didn't go click it, weren't going to watch it. We used our learning management system at the time was Google Classroom. So my students had just went to one-to-one with an iPad mini back when those were a thing. I'm not sure if they still are, but my students were able to log into the Google Classroom, and I had the video right there. And then right below it was a Google form that was assessing what they saw in the video. And so that was one way that I used to share videos. Another way, when I got towards the end, I used a tool called EdPuzzle. I'm not sure if it's still relevant or not, but that was one that I had, again, the video is loaded into EdPuzzle, but it gives you the option to insert questions in the middle of the video. And that question would be a question regarding something I just spoke about. And so if they didn't know the answer, if they weren't paying attention or forgot, they can always go back and rewatch it I see someone said EdPuzzle is still active. So that's a tool that I loved using. And my kids, and it gave me a spreadsheet of, what kids were, did well on the questions, which ones didn't. So before they even came to me, I see who's watched it. I see who was able to understand, just the basic questions that I was asking. I wasn't asking any high level questions. It was just, were you watching? Might have been one of those, what number was I holding up? Or it might have just been what number, or what's the name of the bottom part of a fraction? And so those were just basic questions that I wanted to get that basic information, that meat to my students. And so I think moving on to, if you are wanting to begin using a flipped classroom, just like anything that you're doing for the first time, is start small. Think about something that you want to teach. If you teach one subject, many of you may teach one subject, but you teach different grade levels if you're in the middle and high school levels. It's just to experiment with it. Choose a class that you feel like you can get a lot of information about you as a teacher, and choose a topic and say, all right, I'm going to send this video home. And number one, just get some feedback. How many of you watched it, just to get an idea of how many tried it. So you just prep them up ahead and say, all right, on Tuesday, your homework is not going to be anything you're used to. Now it's just going to be a video to watch. It's going to be a video, either me teaching, or it's going to be a video that you've selected. And if you choose one that you want to do yourself, is to go ahead and prepare a little script and outline. So again, you just hit the meat. You're not reviewing, you're not giving them anything to practice in the video. You're just wanting to give them that background knowledge so that when they do come to school, they have it ready. And then find a platform that you're familiar with. If you don't know what EdPuzzle is, don't start using EdPuzzle. You might just want to start with your camera roll on your iPad or your laptop, and find a way that you can share it so that they can watch it. Again, keep it short. Try not to be repetitive, because remember, they can rewind you on the video. They can in a classroom. And then try to have some kind of quick assessment just to see who watched it and did they understand or did they pay attention in the video, and just try to keep small. And one of the things that I also like to do is I like to ask my kids for feedback. How'd you like my video? Was I boring? And I want them to be honest with me. Tell me. I said, this is not my video. I'm not learning from this video. You're the ones learning from it. And so give me some feedback, because I tried video with my face on it, and then I tried a whiteboard app, EduCreations, and I recorded and I just did a problem. And I asked them, I said, which one do you like better? And they all said, we like seeing you face to face because we feel like that was you talking, that was you. And so they didn't like just, and for those that are visual learners too, they wanted to see me. And so
And
again,
Matt, let me just say that's a really good point. When we incorporated flipped classrooms into our school about 5 or 6 years ago, when I was an assistant principal, and one of the things that the kids absolutely loved, and where we had the most participation when we were first beta testing this and seeing if this was something that we could incorporate school-wide, K-8, that was really important. They really resonated with seeing their teacher on the screen when they got home. And I think the biggest lesson for our teachers, because some of them were trying to do full-on lessons, like sending them and just sticking to that, knowing that this is building the background knowledge so that they come to class with that knowledge so that they are ready to move forward with, as you said, the meat of the lesson. So this isn't about making some ginormous lesson and to substitute for the actual teaching. It really is building that background knowledge, keeping it short, and having your face. I think those are really important components. So thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention.
Again, and starting small, if you just did 1 a week, and then if you start feeling comfortable with it, try 2 a week, and just kind of build up that that repertoire. And you start building your your videos. And it took me really about 2, maybe even 3 years to really, I was in 3rd grade for 6 years until I started feeling comfortable with it. So it took a while, but it was something I saw really did impact my students and their learning. And then I think I kind of hit everything else. God's personal experiences in your personality. And I will share my YouTube channel. You'll see me with a clean face. You'll see me with shaved face. I did actually use a tool that I still use today at our school called TouchCast, which allows me to record me, but it has, I can either put an image up on the screen and I can write on the image while I'm talking. And so I loved using that. And you can publish that straight to YouTube. But there's a lot of different tools out there for recording, for videos. And so I encourage you just, number one, start out with something that you're familiar with, because if you get uncomfortable with it, you're going to give up easily. Because if you feel like you have to make this extravagant lesson, you're gonna get frustrated, and you're gonna quit on it. And that's, I don't want anybody to do that. I want them to give it a chance. But just like anything new, you do want to start small so that you feel good about it. But and if you feel good about it, it's gonna carry over into your kids feeling good about it, because you want them to say, I like this format because I can go home and I don't have to do this big project, because I can do it at school with my peers and my teachers right there to help me. And again, that takes a while. A lot of teachers will implement PBL through Flipped Classroom. They'll start with Flipped, and then when they come to school, they go right into project-based learning tasks that they're working on. And so that's something I never got into in 3rd grade, but I've heard some teachers that have done that, and they really enjoyed it. And so I know that wasn't a comprehensive of what a flipped classroom is. You might still have a lot of questions of what is a flip. I don't understand it, but that's a lot of things that for me, I had to do a lot of research on my own to really see what it looks like. And there's a lot of teachers. If you go on Twitter, I've used Twitter a lot for my own personalized professional development. The hashtag flipped classroom is one that I've looked at, and people are tweeting ideas and questions. There's a lot of flipped classroom experts. I don't consider myself a flipped classroom expert, but there's a lot of those out there that you can connect with and ask questions. And of course, you can always connect with me as well, and I'll try to answer the best I can. But that's a basic understanding of what I feel like a flipped classroom is and how it's worked for me, and a little bit of my own personal experiences. So hopefully that's helped a little bit. And I can take some questions. I don't know, Dee Dee, if we have time for that, or I think
we got about 20-25 minutes for questions. So if you have questions, y'all, if you want to actually ask your question out loud, you can put the raise your hand icon up. If you click the more button, or where is that button? Mine just says raise hand, but if you go into participants, you can raise your hand and ask questions, or you can type them into the chat bar. We did have one question come in. Leah wanted to know, what is the biggest challenge that teachers of lower grades face, second grade, third grade, you know, the lower levels, when it comes to designing and implementing flipped classrooms?
Again, I mean, I don't really know many that were younger that tried it, except the ones that were in my mini sessions or mini courses that I taught in my district. I think some of the biggest thing, it was the technology component of it, kids having technology and kids actually following through with it, which, I mean, honestly, that's what we struggle with as teachers anyway, is the home component. What are they doing at home? And so, again, for me, when I was doing my flipped classroom, I tried it the traditional way. It's funny to say traditional and flipped in the same sentence, but traditional flipped classroom where they actually watch the video at home. I started flipping in the classroom, so they watched my flipped lets. It was kind of funny hearing two of my voices in the classroom, one with me in a small group and one with a video over there. So I said, put your earbuds in. And so I flipped in my classroom, and I had stations set up where before they ever came to me, they were watching the video. So that was one way that I eliminated that excuse that I didn't watch it at home. And so other areas of them, you know, again, it's just that home aspect of them, you know, with network. I mean, we're running that right now, where if kids are remote learning, there's 3 kids in the house. It's broadband, it's Wi-Fi, you know, they can't all 3 participate in a Zoom lesson. I was walking my dog the other night, just kind of paying attention to neighborhoods. And I don't live in a low neighborhood. I don't live in a high neighborhood. I'm kind of right in the middle. And there were about 3 driveways that had like 6, 7 cars in them, which means during this time, there's been people that have been evicted and they've had to move in with some family members. And if you throw 3 or 4 kids in there that are, you know, remote learning, and they're having to do Zoom lessons, you know, I have one other person in my house, and it's hard, you know, we have to, only one person can be on a live Zoom at one time. So I can imagine that can be difficult for kids and devices. There's a lot of things that they're going to run into. And one of the things I feel like that the flipped classroom could work with that is if you are able to share a video or recorded video that can be downloaded. So all they need is just the internet for just that few minutes for a download onto a device or a computer, and then the rest can use for Zoom lessons. And so that's one thought that I thought that it could work during this time while kids are working at home. And then somebody else, I think Brooke asked the question at the beginning, Sophia.org was that flipped classroom certified. I'm not sure if it's still up and available. I know somebody said EdPuzzle still active, but y'all can check that out too. That'll give you some more about what a flipped classroom is and what it looks like. And you just gotta have to think about your own class and make it work for your class and see if it'll work within your school and your classroom.
Yeah, we've got a couple more. One came into everyone, but one came to me privately. So I don't think she meant to do that. So let me just ask this. And I actually know this teacher. She's pretty awesome. She said, now that lessons are going virtual, how do we work with the students who don't watch the video prior to the lesson? So it's probably you handle that in a similar way that you would handle it in a live classroom, people that didn't do their homework. I know Matt mentioned that they would watch it during a small group, but now you don't have that option, right? You can't have them watch it in a small group. So how do we solve that problem when we're coming together live?
That is a good question. I mean, and really the reason I got into it, and this probably doesn't answer the question, but it just made me think of why I started it. I had a student who was being pulled out of the classroom because he was a English language learner. And so he was missing the bulk of my math lesson. And so that's when I started finding a video or recording a video, and I put it on my desktop computer in the back of the room so that when he came in from being pulled out, he went straight into there, watched the video, and then he came to me and I just kind of filled him in. I don't know how that would work with within a remote classroom where, if you're expecting them to, watch the video beforehand, and then now, all right, we're live, we have a live classroom setting. That is a good question. I would take some ideas from the group to see what would be a good idea for them to be able to share an idea for that student or those students who don't watch that background knowledge video, that flip video. That would be a viable question that someone could
So if
have.
you all have suggestions, this is a good time to chime in. My thought, is I'm predominantly Zoom. And I know Google Classroom has the ability to do breakout sections. It's a little more tedious, but it can be done on different platforms. Canvas, I think you can do breakout rooms as well. is go ahead and do your whole group instruction, right? Assuming that most of the children have watched the video, although some haven't, and then give them some independent instruction. Pull those children who didn't watch the video into a separate breakout room and have that conversation, and then kind of build that knowledge, even though it's a little bit after, at least they're getting it.
Yeah, and you have to anticipate those kind of things, so those
Yeah.
kids are not watching it, and have a plan for if and when that does happen. And so that can be a good idea with those breakouts, because again, I haven't done that role yet from the distance remote learning as a teacher. So that that sounds like it'd be a good thing to have. It's all right, if you haven't watched the video, I'm going to do my small group lesson, and you're going to have to join when we go to breakouts or whatever. I think that's a great idea. And then I think Tammy asked a question about, could students download the video before they went? That's actually something, one of the answers that they can do it. They can download it to their device, so that if they go home, they don't have internet, it's already on there. If it's something they can download into their photo library, they have the video right there. And so that's actually one solution to that problem if they don't have internet at home, and if they can take their device home. I know some schools don't let them take their devices home depending on the age. You just kind of have to figure out, be able to answer those questions, and again, try to eliminate those excuses.
Right. Well, hopefully schools now are using the money that's coming to them to get the devices into the kids' hands. We do have a question from Leah Robolito. I'm going to unmute her. So
not quite a question. I was just going to say, in our sort of planning that I've been a little bit involved with, they are having one sort of pull-out teacher per grade. So I don't know if this is available sort of around, but they have one teacher that's available for kids who, maybe aren't able to watch it, or, whatever the issue is, to help kids who are struggling with the flip classroom. And sometimes it's even just like the person who's usually going around delivering in-person stuff, or, jobs are being expanded, shall we say, just to, kind of do extra pullout, not necessarily kids who are normally needing pullout, but because of whatever the circumstances are, whether they don't have time or internet or whatever to watch or be online. They're even having, we hope, or we're working on it, but to have some sort of evening hours for online tutoring or online help. And so.
Yeah, and that's actually a great idea. I mean, I was actually put in responsibility for me for those teachers who are not classroom teachers. If we do go to distance learning, because right now our school for the first 2 weeks is going to be a staggered start, but then week 3 everybody's here every day. But we still have that plan just in case we have to quarantine a class, a school, or whatever the reason is, and we have to all go to distance remote learning. What about those teachers and assistants and people who don't have class? What's going to be their roles? And that's actually one of their roles, is to either team with teachers to call parents, check on kids, or to do something that can, give them their hours, or, if they're just not just home doing nothing and all the work is on the teacher, but to give them some responsibilities. And so that is a good, maybe remember that's something that one of those staff members could do, to say, hey, come on, this teacher, these kids aren't doing this or aren't able to do this. Can you help me to make sure they're getting what they need? So yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I'm just glad you said that.
We're 100% online right now,
Mm-hmm.
and for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, everybody's at a different doing something different, and we might all be doing something the same very soon. And I know teachers would like to be face-to-face, and parents want to be face-to-face, and it's a hard decision. And I was just talking to some parents this week who are doing our virtual academy, and they're just kind of anxious. I was like, what? It's any decision that you make is a hard decision. It's a hard decision to send your kids to school face-to-face. It's a hard decision to keep them home, because there's just a lot of what ifs. And so the decision that you made is the right one for you, for you. And even though it might not be easy, it's still what, we're going to try to do our best. They might not get the socialization with virtual academy when there's kids at school. But there's kids might be exposed to something here at school that, that your kids are not. And so there's backwards and forwards we can go on what's the right answer. But we're still have to teach, and we still have to work, and we're going to have to do the best that we can to reach those kids. And so this is I feel like is something that I've enjoyed doing, and I could see this is what I would be doing if I were in the classroom. I feel like I would be doing some style of a hybrid flipped style teaching where we do have that live lesson, but we have flipped, but also anticipating those needs that my students have. And what if they don't do this? Well, let me try to figure out what would be a possible solution to that. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, if you don't have any more questions, I know everybody's busy planning their year.
Yep.
And now I know you're dying to get home and put together these flipped lessons for your students. Can't wait. It was always fun for me when I was in the schools. Matthew, I want to say thank you so much. And I know Matthew's very graciously agreed to answer questions offline as well. I put our contact information, I made a little picture. So you can email Matt, you can email me with your questions. I'm putting together a lot of resources. It'll come out in the form of a book, but it's not any literary work of art, please understand. It really is kind of a how-to transition from the physical classroom to the virtual classroom. And I'll be sending out snippets of that, and it will be available hopefully mid to late August. So if you're interested in that, you can pop over to the website that's on that little card, ddvicino.com. Sign up for the newsletter if you're not already on it. I know a lot of you are, that's why you're here. But if you're not, then that information will come to you for free, and it is super, super discount when it's finally published. But Matt, this was, I think, invaluable information and a great way to get started with everything. And everybody's saying thank you. See, they really love you. And especially the YouTube samples and tips and tricks. So the PDF of Matt's notes it's in the chat as well as the link to the Google Doc. And if you guys want the information, if you didn't happen to be able to download it for whatever reason, just reach out to one of us and we'll make sure that we get it to you, because this is it's not a news for us. It's not something we're used to. So it's new in that respect. And Matt and I both want to make sure that everybody has all of the resources they need to have a successful 2020-2021 school year and not pull your hair out in the process, because it's really easy to do. Matt, did you have any closing comments for everyone?
I mean, just want to say, I'm all about helping teachers. It doesn't matter if you're in my building or not, because at one point I was a first year teacher, or now I forget what year number I am, but I feel like all of us this year are some form of first year. We're in a year that we've never been in, and so we feel like first year teachers. And so I'm glad to help. I hope I can help. If you found this unhelpful, that's fine. I mean, I'm always appreciative of feedback, but I hope you can take away something, an idea, a resource that will help you this year. And I'm glad you could join us. Again, anytime, even though you may not have reached out during here and asked a question, you can always reach out through email, Twitter, whatever, and I'll be glad to help, if I can.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much, and have a great rest of your week. We're a happy hump day, right? We only have a couple more days left in the week. And Matt, I will definitely be in touch with you. So I guess we're signing off now, but thank you all so much.
Thank you. Everybody's got a wave. That's the thing you do at the end of the
really,
Zoom.
I gotta put the grid on so we can see everybody. Oh, everybody's got their cameras off. You guys need to turn your cameras off. It's fine to say goodbye at least. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks so much. And Matt, I'll talk to you very soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. They're all going now.
I'll leave.
You don't have to leave. You can stay for a minute.
I'll stay then.
See if we can. Nobody. We've got a few people who just want to hang.
They can hang. It's fine.
There you go. Let me turn Facebook off real quick and stop recording.